Okay, we are back and we are going to move on to marine life and marine environment. You can't do oceanography without doing marine life, right? And to see how the marine environment actually affects life and maybe how marine life affects the environment. Um, in my opinion, marine biology is the most exciting part. Unfortunately, I didn't learn much of it as an engineer, but I have enjoyed learning whatever I can after getting into oceanography. Correct? So, living organisms, including marine species, they are all classified. I think you all have been exposed to the classification of life. We will look at that. Marine organisms are obviously adapted to the ocean's properties, the main thing being temperature and salinity, but also pressure, because as you go deeper and deeper into the ocean, more and more water is on top of you, so you're going to have an increasing pressure. And marine environment has distinct features. If you go along the bottom, away from the coast, in the open ocean from top to bottom, and so on and so forth, correct? So, classification of life is based on physical characteristics because it started in the 1800s, late 1700s, when the genetic information was not so known yet, right? So DNA sequencing now has obviously gotten into genetic comparisons and classifications. So just a brief introduction here. If we want to look at the origin of, let's say, our species, Homo sapiens, we know we had some ancestors like Homo erectus, Homo habilis, and we split off from, we had Neanderthals as our relatives, but we split off from earlier so-called hominids, which were also walking on two legs, like Kenyanthropus, Australopithecus, Ardipithecus, and so on and so forth. But this is going much further back. So it's going to show us, if you keep following the genetic markers in what is called a molecular clock, then where do we all originate from? So you can see there is something called paramecium, which is like a sponge, marine sponge, which can be traced as the origin. So the evolution happens with mutations and adaptations and response to the environment and so on. And newer species have evolved over time, but we are all kind of related back genetically. So living and non-living things are made of atoms. So if you think about our body being made of carbon and water, then you have CO2 going in and out of the body, right, as we breathe out and produce CO2 in the body. Water is going in and out, and so on. So atoms are kind of the continuum from inorganic to organic matter. The thing that we will see is defining life is not that straightforward, but life consumes energy from the environment, which means life produces waste. Is that enough to define life? Not quite. Okay. NASA's definition encompasses the potential for extraterrestrial life. So NASA is interested in what is called astrobiology. So they want to see if there is life on other planets, right? Obviously, you might have read just recently, as I'm recording this, just last week, there is some evidence that a atmospheric component called phosphine has been detected on Venus. And on Earth, as far as we know, phosphine can only come from biotic activities. So the exciting news is that maybe Venus has some sort of microbial life. Remember, Venus has surface temperature of 460 degrees. That's hot. So on Earth, in fact, you go and look for extreme environments where things may be living. And one of the extreme environments actually occurs in the ocean, called the hydrothermal vents. We will look a little bit at it. Sulfuric acid, very noxious, toxic, warm, hot water gets produced, but yet hydrothermal vents are full of life forms. So life again, finds loopholes to survive in extreme environments. So NASA looks for life in extreme environments on Earth so that it can go outside and detect life on other planets. So the definition of life for NASA has to include potential for extraterrestrial life. Okay, so we're going from marine life to life, definition of life, extraterrestrial life, and so on, but all related.